everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to the Magofin House historical site for my little sister's school field trip. Now I will let y'all know in advance that when I was editing this video, I noticed a lot of my videos were missing off my computer, and I know they were all there when I imported them into my computer, so I have no idea where half of them went, but the video is already long enough that you'll have enough to enjoy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some history of El Paso.
He says what you heard is true, but I can't stop thinking about you and I said I've been there too a few times. I had a dream, we were sipping whiskey neat, highest floor of the Bowery, and I was high enough. Somewhere along the lines, we stopped seeing eye to eye. You were staying out all night, and I had enough. Oh, she don't see the light that's shining, deeper than the eyes can find it. Maybe we're made of blind, so she tries to cover up her pain. My heart's crippled by the pain that I keep on closing. You cut me open. There's a hope that's waiting for you in the dark. You should know you're beautiful just the way you are, and you don't have to change a thing. The rock could change its heart. No scars, see you're beautiful. The stars are what beautiful. Oh, keep bleeding, keep bleeding, keep bleeding, keep bleeding,
They'll say you could do anything. They'll say that I was clever. If we go down, then we go down together. We'll get away with everything. Let's show them we are better.
She tells him, ooh, love, no one's ever gonna hurt you, love. I'm gonna give you all of my love. Nobody matters like you. She tells him your life ain't gonna be nothing like my life. You're gonna grow and have a good life. I'm gonna do what I got to do. Just take me I see $1 billion in your eyes. Make me your enemy, your enemy, your enemy. 16 minutes now. You couldn't keep it. Somebody leaked it, now some shit's about to go down.
some more exhibits. You can walk around and look, because what you see in here, we're going to discuss over there, and you'll say, like where the carriage, where their garage was. We'll go in there too. Okay, so I'm going to be bringing out some chairs and we'll watch the video.
Does anyone need chairs? Anybody?
Everybody okay? Yeah.
Thank you. As does the Magofin home. First occupied in 1877 by Mexican-born Joseph Magoffin and his wife, Octavia Magofin. The house was built on part of a 1,280-acre tract of land Joseph inherited from his father. The Magoffins used this strategic parcel of land for farming and real estate, and it became the basis of their wealth, allowing Joseph to serve in many public offices. Shown in an 1886 bird's-eye view of El Paso, the Magoffin home was located on the outskirts of El Paso and was surrounded by a large orchard of apples, apricots, peaches, and pears, watered by the El Paso Acequia, or canal. The family maintained a flourishing garden, providing the family with vegetables, and Octavia had a lovely garden of flowers. The Magoffins built their home with adobe brick, a method that was common in El Paso prior to the coming of the railroads. Adobe brick was made from material at hand, using clay from the property and sand from the nearby riverbed. The sand and clay were mixed with straw and water, and then poured into large wooden molds to form bricks. Once dried in the sun and cured, the bricks were ready for construction. No foundation was poured. The adobe bricks were laid directly on the ground, then stacked to form exterior walls that are 2 to 3 feet thick at the base. Wood beams to support the adobe roof, and planks for flooring were hauled by wagon from the Sacramento Mountains in New Mexico. The exterior walls are 16 feet in height. The original mud plaster surface was replaced with lime plaster in the late 1880s to make the walls more waterproof. This plaster was also scored with grooves to give the appearance of stone construction, and vibrant full paint finishes were added to the door and window woodwork. The home is one of the best examples of territorial style architecture found in the Southwest. The style was a frontier interpretation of the Greek Revival style and is characterized by adobe construction, wooden pediments over doors and windows, whitewashed walls, paneled doors with sidelights and transoms, shutters, and interior rooms organized around a central hall. When the Magoffins moved into the home in 1877, it included the large hall and 6 rooms, 4 on the west and 2 on the east. A 3-room outbuilding lay 40 feet south of the main house. Within a few years, as the family grew, 7 more rooms were added, connecting the 2 buildings. In 1880, Joseph Magoffin began to sell off some of his land surrounding the homestead. He retained about 27 acres until a flood destroyed the El Paso Canal in 1897. Then he developed the Magoffin Homestead Addition, retaining about 5 acres surrounding the family home. In the late 19th century, the surrounding neighborhood included many fine homes. By the 1920s, the neighborhood began to see the intrusion of commercial and industrial development, and later the construction of multifamily housing complexes. Even as the neighborhood changed dramatically, the Magoffin home remained a reminder of El Paso's rich history. It stands today as one of the oldest surviving adobe structures in the region. In 1965, local historians succeeded in getting the home declared a Texas Historic Landmark, and in 1971, listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Its preservation was assured in 1976, when the city of El Paso and the state of Texas jointly purchased the home from the Magoffin heirs. In 1985, the city of El Paso created the Magoffin Historic District in an effort to revitalize the neighborhood and preserve its historic structures. Under state ownership, the Magoffin home has undergone several extensive restorations. Managed by the Texas Historical Commission since 2007, the site continues to preserve and interpret a rich multicultural heritage. It remains as a unique architectural and historical treasure, and includes many of the furnishings and decorative arts used and enjoyed by 4 generations of the Magoffin family. It is El Paso's history at its best.
Not going anywhere. Bruce recording. She's vlogging today.
Are you gonna put him in, Mom? Mom, are you gonna put him in? Yeah, I will when we get over there. I think it'll be easier to wait till we get over there.
Man, what's the upstairs area?
Excuse me?
What's the upstairs area?
Oh, that's our offices.
Oh, our offices, okay.
Now, the neat thing about this house, it was built in 1901, and it was built for Dr. Justice and his wife, who was a lot younger than he was. So in 1901, Mr. Magoffin owned all this land, and he sold it only to people who would build a home and stay here in order to grow El Paso. So he was quite smart in bringing businesses and people who were going to stay and help and work here. So I know it's cold. Let's go on over to the house.
I have a good question.
Yes.
I love this house. It has an attic. Are there any that have actual basements?
I don't think so.
No.
Oh, no. You know what? This house does have one.
Does have one. Yeah.
And it goes downstairs.
It goes down under and that was bugs me though. Y'all be careful, please. Watch the cars.
Yeah, watch for cars, boy. There's a car coming.
Oh yeah, because
So you're in a crosswalk.
Why did everyone just run past me? I see them.
let's go.
All the way to cars, all the way to cars, all the way to cars.
I'm like, why? They could have never known why.
The river, the Rio Grande, was so unpredictable. It flooded a lot here. So in 1875, when the home was built, a lot of people, they lived in on the other side of the river and would cross the bridges to work.
Yay, the new one.
It's really, really old. I wonder what's inside. You wonder? Gold, maybe.
You can sit on the ground. That's what it said. Huh? There's picnic tables. He's sitting on the ground. Unless they call that a ground. Well, she did ask me. She said, how cold is it for you guys outside? So I said, it's cold outside.
So the home is made of adobe. How many know what adobe is? Okay, well we're going to discuss it because I have a open wall where you can touch it and look at it and see what it's made.
Is it true that it holds, like the adobe is really good for holding in I guess keeping the temperature inside the home, something
Yes,
like that?
yes.
Like it's not too hot, it's never too hot, it's never too cool.
Also, it is a museum. It is a very historic home with a lot of the things of the family. So we do ask that you, if you can touch it, I will hand it to you. Like there are some toys in there that I'll let you guys play with. But other than that, we'll keep our hands to ourselves and be very careful because things are priceless in here. But I just want you to see that when it rains, these little canals here, it's where the rain would hit the roof and immediately come shooting out. So when it rains, these are always just pouring out like little rivers. They're called water canals. And for adobe, the worst thing is water. Come on, let's go inside. It's too cold out here. For the babies. Okay. Get anything out here? Come on in here.
These are the floors my grandma had in her house. These kind of old floors. Smells good in here.
If you want to do that here, or do you want to try it one more time? Okay. I am going to lock the door lock if you need to run out for any reason. Also, throughout the house, every room has a door to the outside.
That's weird.
And what's that smell? I smell oil.
It smells like cinnamon.
That's what I'm saying.
Some sort of like oil
Smells
lamp.
good.
Oil.
Nothing like yes.
Well, we used to have those things, but we unplugged them, so it's probably just a residue of the little, it should be cinnamon, I think.
It smells good.
Smells good.
Doesn't it smell like an old house? Well, this is the hallway. When the home was built in 1875, this is Mr. Magoffin, Mr. Joseph Magoffin here, and Octavia. They're the ones that inherited the land, and they built this house for them and their two children, Jim and Josephine. So when they built this house, it was the hall, the family room here, the former parlor, and then two other rooms on each side here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rooms. And then over time, Mr. Magoffin added on a master bedroom for him and his wife. And then he added on a room for Josephine. And then afterwards, he added on a whole wing, actually. So from 7 rooms, today the house has 19. And we're going to see most of them. So it'll be like a trip back in time. Remember, in 1875, there was only about 736 people living in all of El Paso. That could be one little school.
Yeah.
And no doors. I noticed no doors.
No hallway. They did have doors, and the doors are open. They're original to the home. So they did understand the privacy, and they did have doorways. There is no hallways because of the size of the adobe. And what they did with the land, they got the dirt from right under the house and started making adobe. For the wood that you're standing on and the ceiling, they had to take a horse and buggy all the way to the Sacramento Mountains in New Mexico, near Ruidoso, and cut down the trees and haul them back.
Wow.
So these are original to the home as
It's a lot of
well.
work. That would be.
They had to go so far because El Paso, we have a lot of dirt, but we don't have any wood. So a lot of people, for a house this big and with wooden floors, these people were very, very rich and very influential. And he needed to do that because it was Mr. Magoffin's idea to come back here after the Civil War ended in 1865. He wanted to come back here and grow a city. So Mr. Magoffin inherited this land from his father, James Wiley Magoffin, who would sell goods all around on the Santa Fe Chihuahua route to the Army, to anybody who needed things, coffee, pots and pans. And as he was very successful, as he made his money, he did invest in real estate. So at one point he owned about 1,200 acres, not 12,000, 1,200. From the mountain, and you can see the mountain right outside the front door, he owned a huge swath of land from the mountain to the river. So the money that was made for the family was made selling it. Mr. Magoffin would sell the land to people like the doctor across the street, to Mr. Bassett, to Mr. Moorhead, and all these people have their schools named after them. They were pioneers here in El Paso and helped with the growth. So this is the hallway where Mrs. Magoffin would greet her guests, and they would sit here and talk, and then if it was more of a business associate, they would go over here to the formal parlor. So follow me. Come on in. You go ahead and come on in. You don't have to stay in the line. And this is where they would entertain in this room. Business associates. Mr. Magoffin started a bank the State National Bank right down the street here. And his primary reason for doing that was he did not want to be known as a farmer, although he did have a small farm. And he wanted to bring in investors, people to bring their money here to El Paso to grow his city. So they would come in here because this room had their finest furniture. It had their German ceramics, a silk fan collection that they had from Japan, a beautiful puffer fish. We don't know where he got that through his travels, but we do have a photograph from 1880 that shows that they did have a puffer fish here. Wow. You're welcome to come and look at this.
Is that the same puffer fish?
No, no, it is not. About a month ago, I had a family from Japan that came through here, and the father was licensed to prepare the puffer fish.
Here's a curator.
Is that what they call him?
Yes, I think so.
A curator?
Yeah, I believe so.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I don't know if the curator is something.
But he can do that. Not many people can because it's a very poisonous fish. But he can prepare it for consumption.
Oh, he can?
Yes,
Wow.
he's one of the very few that's licensed in Japan.
Yes, that's awesome. That is cool.
Pretty.
Please don't touch the piano. Don't lean on the piano. This piano came here in 1881. That was quite a while ago. It was a present for Mrs. Magoffin, who played the piano quite well. We still tune it every year, and for special occasions we do play it. This was one, it fit perfectly in the rail car. So that's how it got here on the railroad. So Mr. Magoffin was instrumental in negotiating the railroad to come through El Paso. And as soon as it did, they got this. Anybody play? You play? Nobody plays?
Just
Oh,
play
you do?
piano.
You play piano?
Yeah.
Guitar?
Not anymore.
What do you think of this piano? It's a box.
I love it.
It's a box.
She's a show off. You give me a show off.
Yeah, I saw a picture.
I don't play it anymore.
Oh, you do? Yes. Yes, it is. And we had it tuned a few months ago, and the man, he had to bend over for such a long time. His back hurt, so he had to sit down a while. But you can see how beautiful it is under here.
I love the work.
Isn't it beautiful? There's the few in existence today that are this old. So, any questions about the room?
The carpet's interesting. How did they get in here?
Well, when the state purchased the home and the whole 1.5 acres, we had to redo the home. It was in a very poor condition, so they have perfectly good decorators who are period decorators, and they went, and according to pictures, they can reassess a room. The carpet is new. It is not from the time period. We do have some of their carpets, but they're very, very thin. They didn't make them like this.
Thin as pancakes.
Any questions about the room?
Go ahead, no, go. I forgot what I was going to say.
He thinks because he can walk now, young.
Oh, you just own the place? Oh, it's so cute though.
We usually do pretty good. I don't know if we're going to make it this time.
It's just a going. That's cute.
The legs are removable and they fit underneath the piano. Wow. Kind of interesting. And they call it a box piano. And so it can fit in the box.
Some cheese?
And be brought in.
It's not food.
Yes, yes. The table here predates the home. And the nice thing about it, we believe that this was a wedding present for Joseph and Octavia when they got married after the war. in the 1860s. The neat thing about it is this table extends to seat up to 40 people.
Oh my.
And here's a picture of it.
This table right here?
This table right here.
Yes.
And if you look on the bottom, it has the wheels in order to pull it. And the only room that they can do that in was the hallway.
Oh my. Crazy.
So they
That's a
did
big
that
table.
quite often. They had big dinners because Mr. Magoffin, after from 1980, he ran for public office. He was elected mayor 4 times, from 1880 to 1891. He served. So they always had big dinners here. And even after Josephine and General Glasgow moved in 1927, they were a retired military family. He was a brigadier general at one point. They would also have big dinners out here. After they would eat dinner, they would move the table and then they would dance out there. Music was very important to them. I want you to see, this is what the house is made of. This is adobe. So you guys can take turns coming up here and looking at it. Adobe is taken from a clay base, dirt, mixed with water and straw. And then it's set in big, giant molds and set out in the sun to dry. As soon as it got to the desired dryness, then they would start building on it. Brick by brick by brick.
How come we don't use it today?
We do.
We do?
There's a lot of adobe homes in the area. There is a gentleman in Juarez, Mexico, who's making adobe bricks. There is a specialist who comes to the Magofin home every few years to check on the health of the adobe. He does work in California, Arizona, Texas. He does the work for all the missions.
My neighbor's house is adobe.
And there's still a lot of adobe homes here in El Paso.
What I remember about his house is that in the wintertime it was warm, it's nice. And in the summertime it was fresh air as well. And it was like a high ceiling kind of house.
That would be
Yes,
But it was made of, they didn't have no, like the outside of it, the exterior you could still, but it was still a brown adobe.
Oh, really?
Yes. And they finally, like about 10 years later, they finally sealed it. But I remember just, it was perfect temperature all the time.
Yes, yes. If you've ever been in an adobe home, you'll find that. In the summer, or in the daytime, the adobe absorbs the heat. And then in the evening time, the high ceilings, with the heat rising, it kept the home fresh. Also, the size of these windows. They would always open their doors, the north and south here, and then the windows and that breeze that would come through. Just
I remember
it would cool the whole house.
Yes.
That's neat.
The whole house. Now this piece of furniture here, we just received it back. It belonged to Josephine and General Glasgow's youngest son, William, who married into General Sheridan's family from the Confederate Army. So the daughter is very old now, and she thought, well, I'll give this back to the home. So we just received it a couple months ago. Anybody know what it is? No. It's a wooden ice chest. They would have ice brought in by the train, and then until they had the stores and then the refrigerated air, but that wasn't until later when they could make and keep ice. So the big block of ice would arrive. They would put the ice in here, and it's kind of like a refrigerated. It's a metal.
Can I touch it?
Yeah. So the ice would go in there, and they would put their drinks in there to stay cool. And this little thing, it has a spout where as the ice would melt, the water would drip out.
My mind is blown by this.
Isn't it something?
Yeah, it is.
Isn't that something?
Yes, it is.
They made it?
Especially in the Southwest. And wow.
Well, I kind of knew, but we have what we call brain trust, bag lunch. We have it's a small lecture series. And they talked about the ice farms up north, where these huge rivers or lakes would freeze. They would have men and horses just cutting huge blocks of ice, putting them in a train, and getting them wherever they were going.
There's a commodity back then. Ice
Yes.
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 You have to have a lot of
some boots. No?
Boots. Wow.
Now this was this whole side of the house in 1976. Tia Magoffin Glasgow sold the home to the state of Texas. She continued living here for another 10 years. So this part of the house was already a museum, but they put in these doors so that she can go from her bedroom to the kitchen and outside if she wanted to leave, so she wouldn't bother anybody on tour. So she had her, this is more of her privacy, for her privacy. Let's go on up to the family. Let me go ahead and explain this one. This is a wedding from Glasgow. It was handmade. They were
He just got his wireless headphones on. He's good to go.
Check us out in El Paso, and they saw this at the expo and said, we need to get it for her. Put it on the tray. It comes apart in 40 pieces. There's not a nail in there. It's held together with wooden pegs.
You better not have to put it back together.
That was the canopy, and it had this. It had the veil, but it got very old, and so we took it off. But it was mosquito netting, most likely to protect her from the mosquitoes.
And of course, in New Orleans, they would have something like
Look at that little chair.
Yes.
Swamp areas.
That large chair. The little tiny
Now, it
chair.
is believed that this was from France. That's
Wow.
what this Tia had said.
Yeah, a lot of people contract malaria back then, so that was one of the main things to watch out for mosquitoes.
Yes. Remember I was telling you about the sink? Mr. Magoffin had the running water, but this is a washstand. This is where they would have the water ready in the morning, and this is where she would take her bath, or kind of clean her face and wake up, and then she'd have to start the ordeal of getting dressed. And then she would stand up here and look at herself. You could see where she stood. You could see some boot marks over here on the dresser. Turn around.
Oh, like on the wood.
And of course,
That's right.
I'm sure over the years her children got to play up there too.
There's a heel for the imprint. Right?
Yes. Look at that.
I'm vividly imagining everything you're saying, and it's all coming to life. It's all the picture is coming out. Yeah.
Now she did have a seamstress to make her dresses. Her and her mom. They were that advanced, and Josephine did go to school. She started school here in El Paso when she was young. Mr. Magoffin also, he knew if he was going to grow a city and bring in businesses, who was going to work there. He had to educate the base. So him and his friends started the El Paso School District.
EPISD?
EPISD, yeah. He was one of the first board members.
Oh, okay.
Does that explain anything? Yeah. I know they're having some problem. But we thank him for bringing schools to.
Yes, education.
Now, even from Mr. Magoffin's grandfather, who came from Ireland and settled in Kentucky, he knew how important education was. America was young, brand new, and the people started coming west. He educated his sons and his daughters. There was 10 kids, and they were all very successful.
That was rare, right? Because we
Very
usually
rare.
only educate the males and not the females.
Yes.
That's why she's emphasizing that.
It was very important. And even for him, for James Wiley, he also educated his sons from Joseph Magoffin and Octavia. They sent their son to Notre Dame. They sent Josephine to the schools here. When she was old enough, she went to boarding school in Washington, D.C. And then after that, she was sent to Dresden, Germany for finishing school for the last 2 years. And there, we do have letters in our archives with her writing home. Kind of, you could tell she was very sad, crying, "I want to come home. I miss you." And her father said, "I'm sorry. You have to stay there and finish your schooling, because when you come back, you have to make something of yourself."
Wow.
I'm pretty sure most of the conversations with other people from around the world are like, "Where are you from? El Paso? Where's that at?"
Yeah. Texas. Whoa. Now at the time too, Texas was growing as well, and in the 1800s they had to bring people, like in San Antonio, from the Canary Islands. They brought 10 families to start growing because nobody lived here. Nobody. It was so dense. I mean, where you would not see people for days. Although the Indians did live here and hunted here and survived here for many years. But then they had to bring people.
The agrarian group of people start growing from the Canary Islands. Wow.
Yes. Yes. So
A lot of history
if you look at San Antonio, you'll see there's a line that would go all the way back in San Antonio. So. Okay, y'all, come on, let's continue on. There's still a lot of things we can say.
She describes it so thoroughly that I can actually
That's the kind of mirror I need. A body mirror.
You know, it hurts.
It's pretty though.
His son was from Notre Dame, and this is him in this picture here in the back row. The first guy on the right, well, they all have mustaches.
Is he standing or is he in the bottom?
He's standing in the back row, standing.
So he would be this
First
gentleman
one
right
on the
here?
right, yes.
Need your teddy bear?
That's Jim. So this was his room, and this is the only closet in the house that they had. And they had a small closet because by the size of your closet, they would tax you.
They would what now?
By the size of the
sleep in
closet,
your
you would be
closet.
taxed. If it was
Go to
big
your
enough to
bathroom.
be a room, a baby can fit in there, you're going to be taxed higher.
Imagine all the walk-in closets.
So that's why everybody had
If it's big enough for a baby, sleep in it, you'd be taxed. That's why there's no closet.
They don't have closets in Germany.
Maybe they don't want to be taxed.
And it's funny, we
That's
do
probably why.
have
Now
the
we know.
census every 4 years of Mr. Magoffin while he lived here. And he listed, I have 1 cow, 2 horses, 3 goats, 5 pigs, 2 dogs, I mean, down to the, everything.
Down to the cat.
Down to the chihuahuas.
The chihuahuas? They had chihuahuas.
They had chihuahuas,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's where they came from.
Boys, I want you to see this. This is some of the things that boys had to wear. They were always dressed with these cuffs. They always had a hat.
Oh.
And it was always clean. So men had to be sharp as well. Especially if they had parents who were mayor.
Especially affluent members of the
Affluent,
family. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Makes sense.
Because they were the next in line. He went to school. When he came back, he was he did serve on the city government as well. He was an alderman, and he pioneered to get hospitals here. At the time, women, I mean, there were no hospitals. Women had to give birth at home. So Josephine, when her husband was overseas, she had her 2 oldest children here.
She gave birth at home.
Yes. Yes.
Just a question for you. I
Yeah.
see that all of these rooms are connected. What happened? Any fire exits?
What was I saying?
Well, yes, we do have the fire.
No,
You said
I'm
here, you said here.
Can I trade you for my wig? I said no.
Now, what I just found out, you
Yeah, I'll
think
go
that
only to
this
40
was
if they
an
go too
ideal
low.
setup
That's
for a
it.
home. What he did was, after he opened up these doorways, because by 1920, Mr. Magoffin was very old, very
Need an old
sick, and he couldn't get around the house. These doorways were not here. They had to go out. It was more like apartments. They had to go out the front door, Josephine, to get to her door
Don't get anyone else.
by the dress. This door here,
Kind of like a hacienda.
yes, just like a hacienda. And there was, but what had happened, and we'll go outside through the bathroom though, but yes.
Make
And
sure you
this
get lower
way,
if you're gonna.
when he was out
Don't get the
drumming
pieces.
up business for
Also, I get the
El Paso,
bottoms. No.
he would say, come here to build a business and you can stay at our home. So this room, at one time, Mr. Moorhead, who was the bank president of State National, him and his wife, they lived in this room until their home was built. So it was like, that's something that he offered. If you come to El Paso, you stay here, you build your home, but you can live here.
Until you build your home, kind of
Until-
like lodging and stuff.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool.
So these openings weren't there until later.
Right, until the 1920s. But we believe that he did not know that if he did open up the doorways, that it would mess with the integrity of the adobe. We started seeing cracks in the movement, and so we're watching, those kind of things that he was not aware of. So at one point, it probably was a lot straighter, and at one point, but now, and you can see why there is no hallway, because all that is adobe inside there too.
And they're the size of the bricks themselves, right? This is practically the size of one adobe brick.
No. No, they're just packed.
Packed.
Okay.
Why is that so short?
So to go from one room to the next, you gotta go outside.
This ain't
Go
very
backside and
Get in
then
there,
go to the
let's
next
see.
room.
Well, I can fit, but
'Cause we're
he's
short.
not
And
any
then now,
taller.
when he
He was
when
any
he
taller.
did do the doorways,
Actually good height.
when they
good height.
purchased
Everybody else was
the
tall.
museum in 1976, it was
About
perfect,
that, like,
because we can just go through all the way around
How's the family?
to each room.
so
Did they have peacocks here? I'm so sorry, man.
Well,
with turkey feathers.
They had access because James Wiley,
Thing.
Magoffin, being from Kentucky, Mexico, they had access to anything they wanted. Plus, when the railroad came through, they had they could order from Sears and Roebuck, all of those.
Smith's,
and
what's it called, that catalog?
Sears?
Sears catalog.
They had anything they wanted. And of course, with the horse and buggy, they would go get whatever they needed, and so it was quite nice for them.
no, online it said that the house is actually in a different location than it really originally was. Is that this whole thing was
Oh,
moved?
you're thinking about Magoffinsville?
Extension.
Magoffinsville, and if you go out on Magoffin here, and if you go about 8 blocks straight up west, you'll see a marker, and it's a historical marker, and it's off to the left on the corner. Now, Magoffinsville was built by Joseph Magoffin's father, James Wiley, the man over the piano, and who was the settler who brought goods to the area. He built the first Fort Bliss and called it Magoffinsville. And it housed the single soldiers, and he had his little store there. It was destroyed by a flood. Yeah. So all that's left there is the marker. So when you leave, go by and see it.
So actually, the first Fort Bliss in El Paso was just down the street.
Was just down the street here.
I would never know.
And of course, he would have owned all that land. Remember, he owned a swath from the mountain to the river. He owned all of this.
So that's what's actually moved.
Yes.
I misunderstood.
Yes, and it wasn't until, after it flooded there, we have these soldiers, where do we move them? Then they moved them over here to the west side. And there's a historical marker there as well. I've never seen it, but I need to go one day. And it'll say, this was where Fort Bliss at one time as well. And then they moved a couple of other times. It wasn't until the 1911 that Mr. Joseph Magoffin and some of his investors donated 1,000 acres to where Fort Bliss is today. So the Fort Bliss, the military, it's woven into El Paso's fabric. They're very important to us, as well as Mexico.
That would be a good promotion board question. Where's the first Fort Bliss established?
Yeah,
A lot of soldiers don't know that. They don't
Right.
know. I never knew that being in the military myself. I never knew that. That's pretty interesting.
So these are some of the grandchildren here. This is Josephine and her 5.
Having fun, Harley. Almost there.
Interesting.
So this came around 1906. This is what he gave them.
What's your step?
I know.
What's a big bathroom?
Oh my. He probably said, you know what, I don't want to
make
hear
a
about
bathroom
it
on the
anymore.
stairs.
This is your big bathroom. He had one of those full flush
Cloth
toilets.
table. I love
We
that
couldn't find
tub.
one, so this is going to have to do for us now.
It's a cloth
This was
tub.
used as a bathroom until 1976. The tub and the sink are original. So the wood burning stove here, I think this is more for coal. It's too small.
But only the wood burning stoves that don't have it's not right on the wood because of
The wood, right. So it's set up, right?
yeah, set up like on stones.
Yes.
I've seen.
Did it cost
Well,
something?
this one, and this one isn't even connected. We're not sure where it was in correlation to the room, but it would heat the room. They would burn wood or coal, and then it would heat the room, and it would also heat the water that they would pour, because they didn't have a water heater put in the house until the 1920s.
So they put like the pitcher just sitting
Uh-huh.
here, and then
That'd
once
take
it
a
was
lot of
full,
work.
put it in, get some more.
Oh, man.
And then the kids go in, like maybe 3 or 4 at a time.
Yeah, you heard of that before. Share the water. Share the water.
And then some of the children remember bathing like that. And then once the first batch was done, okay, second batch get in there.
This is a large restroom even to today's compared.
Yes.
It's still yeah.
Yes. And they were very excited, and they loved him. And of course, he loved his grandchildren. Now the pie chest is here because Jim's
Ooh, now you can
widow,
really smell this in
when
there.
her and the 4 children lived here, they had a lot of fruit still here. She would can, make her jam, her jelly. She also tried to make wine from the grapes that were still here in the area. And then the pie chest was in the kitchen until her bottles would explode. And Mr. Magoffin ordered the pie chest to the bathroom where it was easier to clean out. Yeah, so it's been here since 1915.
That is like,
Wow.
wow, you'd have to go like that.
Actually earlier, because they moved in, 1960 when her husband passed. So sorry. Listen, go ahead and go out to the courtyard. You can walk on the grass too.
What's up, Mom? You're stepping on all the fruit. God, what? Stepping on
The
stuff.
smallest room.
In your bathroom?
So when the home was built, this part was here, and they believe it was built for storage, for supplies while they were building that part of the house. And then over the years, Mr. Magoffin would build the room, his master bedroom, Josephine's room, and it wasn't until 1890s that when the kids started getting married and having grandchildren, he added this wing, which enclosed the courtyard. This is where the family was most happy. They all had lounge chairs. They would bring in the mariachis or the musicians here and open the windows so that music was through the house and out here. We have a ladies' restroom over here and a boys' restroom here if anybody needs. Okay, should be unlocked. There you go. We have a restroom over here for ladies.
So this was like what they lived in probably until this was done?
No, they never lived here until that was finished.
Okay.
They think it was mainly for to house maybe the
materials.
Some of the materials, because there was a garage area. Also for the people who were building the home, they might have needed a place to stay and eat. There's a small fireplace in here I'm going to show you. So they're not really quite sure what it was used for. Later, they do know it was used for dormitories for some of the grandkids who came back home to go to UTEP. It was also used by two of his granddaughters who were teachers. They had a little school in here where area kids would come in and they would work with them as well. Back here there is a, on Olive Street, there's a school, like a tech school. Mr. Magoffin donated that land for that school. And then of course his school is back over here, Magoffin Grade School.
When was the last years or decades that this house was actually that people actually lived in?
There's a door.
Actually looks like, and that's what it looks like over there, except Mrs. Magoffin put the hermanta to protect her furniture. And you see we get all this debris all over the floor. You see?
And you can see the local vegetation that they use.
Local vegetation, yes. They used what they had. And at one point, all the cottonwoods was flowing down the river. So just, hey, go get 10 more. And they would go bring them.
So there was a good use for them.
Yes.
So now people tend to complain about them now.
So here is one room that I did not get to show you, and this is the formal living room. And then after that, in the room in the back is a bedroom that I did not get to show you, and that's because this video disappeared, so I did not have it. And this is the main entrance to the adobe. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.